Nice to meet you.
No, it's
Great, wonderful. Welcome.
Hi, everyone. All right. Hi, guys.
Hi, Jillian.
Welcome to, I think this is the 12th org meeting we've had.
One-year anniversary.
Well, that's next month, but so welcome, guys. A little smaller today. We're just going to do like a few quick presentations and mostly break out into working groups because we have a lot of fun stuff coming up this month. And Pete's going to give the first little talk about some of the volunteer work we've been doing. So give it up for Pete.
Hello, everyone. Please bear with me. It's been a couple of years since I've done any kind of public speaking. And I'm having a lot of hardware issues right now, too. So I'm just going to start with, since we have a whole bunch of stuff going on today.
Speak into the mic.
Sorry. All right, New York City Mesh benefits greatly from installations that are either multiple connections in one building or simultaneous multiple installations in a neighborhood. These scenarios save labor, time, and money. But logistical and financial benefits are not the only reasons why these are preferred. The upcoming Installathon is an opportunity to generate donations, recruit volunteers to grow our community. Sorry. New York City Mesh is much more than antennas, Ethernet cables, and internet access. New York City Mesh is people working hard to grow and to maintain the network. New York City Mesh is also people organizing meetings that foster community and engage volunteers. These efforts are essentially the same and therefore should operate in unison. All right. So the idea here is yes, thank you. We have a growing pool of volunteers, but as the group grows, relational loss may keep people from participating. By organizing members into squads, we can spur interaction that intensify the sense of community and help new recruits get incorporated into the group. Installing communications hardware on a roof can be daunting, especially for those that lack technical knowledge. As a member of a squad of 3 to 5 people, new volunteers may be more likely to ask questions and ask for help and therefore participate. Participation from members with a fresh perspective may prove beneficial when exploring new avenues of mesh expansion. Plus, squad names and image convey community to help branding on social media, allowing us to connect with more people. New York City Mesh has official accounts on the major social media platforms. These accounts feature pictures of installs, videos, organizational and informational messages. The posts have good reach, but without hashtags, these messages are quickly inundated in the stream of social media. The latest blog post by Willem for the upcoming Installathon in Parkside Avenue has already generated a lead for a multiple install in a completely different neighborhood. By executing coordinated campaigns, incorporating deliberate tags, and calls to action, we should be able to regularly generate similar leads. So on Twitter, Twitter was like the one that blew my mind because according to the data that we got at my first org meeting, as of August 2019, New York City Mesh has 2,930 followers with 108 retweets, but a whopping total of 110,000 impressions. A Twitter impression is the number of times a tweet shows up in someone's timeline. That means that every time a tweet is served up in the timeline, it counts as an impression. Tweets mentioned outside of Twitter also count. The number of impressions compared to the number of retweets and the number of followers is impressive, especially when considering that no hashtags were used. Facebook, while it might not be as popular as it once was in the United States, shouldn't be ignored as a platform. Many people use Facebook groups to organize local community events. As you can see, Parkside Avenue is a member of, has their own Facebook group. This is an ideal avenue to reach potential additions to the network because it's possible to connect with an entire group with little effort. Facebook groups are akin to a captive audience. A well-composed message with an eye-catching imagery or video will ensure that a post remains near the top of the feed providing a greater ROI versus promoting on Instagram or Twitter. Getting our install game on fleek. There you go, guys. Come on. This is an ideal avenue. Oh, sorry. There you go. On Instagram, our platform should not only showcase installs, but also share views of the city from the rooftops that many don't get to see. Luckily, most installs are planned in the afternoon around 2 p.m., so posting images in the afternoon when Instagram use is higher will help maximize our exposure. Selfies, panoramas, hero shots of equipment will help generate buzz, while geotags and hashtags will help penetration in daily feeds. This is a slide from my first org meeting, too. In August, the survey results showed members' impressions of New York City Mesh. The word cloud here can be tapped and cross-referenced with trending hashtags to populate a list of things of hashtags that we can use to promote NYC Mesh. The survey also returned a collection of companies and brands that resonate with New York City Mesh members so that we can emulate posts and even plan complementary posts to take advantage of social media campaigns and trends. The research has already been done. The tools are at our disposal. All we need is a plan. Oh, and they have a plan. So, we have data available in the ticketing system, Slack channels, and install history that provide us with an average timeline for an install. With that information, we can coordinate a launch of a social media campaign to promote the install and engage and encourage others in the vicinity to join the mesh. Both branches of New York City Mesh operating in unison to achieve our goal. Okay, so once a request is received, we're provided with an address as a starting point for research to prepare the targeted campaign. While we wait for the panoramic photo, we can search for local organizations and prepare messages. If a connection is viable, then research will be finalized and the campaign scheduling will begin. If the install request is not viable, then the campaign ends, but we can still search for a Facebook group so that we can maintain an open channel of communications with the neighborhood associations should the connection eventually become viable. Even if no group pages exist, there's no loss of labor because the images and copy that were prepared can be used in the future. Okay, so now when we have assessing the line of sight and the hardware for the install, assuming that all the lights are green, while the survey is conducted and the equipment is assessed, images and copy for the campaign are finalized. If a Facebook group exists, we can ask to join that group. While we wait for acceptance for the proposed cost, NYC Mesh social media accounts are updated with the messages, maps, and images, and with copies and tags. Posts continue as scheduled. Ideally, a block association or local group exists that can help us spread the word. Once the install date is confirmed, the social media squad can assess campaign progress and record statistics. It's pretty important so that we can see if we're actually making progress with this campaign or any campaign that we try. If we have no luck with the campaign effort, but then the installation proceeds as planned. But if multiple installs are requested, we can switch gears in order to create an install-a-thon style event. So as you can see, this whole process can run without any interruptions to the install process. The completion of the install ends with the campaign, ends the campaign with images of a successful install and a happy squad. But it shouldn't mean the end of engagement with the new member of the mesh. The current form provided to new members gives them the information they need to configure and share their network connection and gives them information on how to request help. One of the topics that comes up during install meetings is conversion of members to volunteers. If our efforts stop at the antenna install and the final contact, unless there's a problem, is this form, then it should be friendlier and it should present a call to action. This revised install form highlights a member's name and node information, and instead of simply stating the date that the install was completed, this version reads, is a member of NYC Mesh as of the date, in order to make the person feel included. This middle section here provides a thank you message and presents a call to action. So if I'd read it to you guys, thank you for helping grow NYC Mesh. NYC Mesh not only provides affordable, neutral, high-speed connections to the internet, it also provides connections within communities. It is through the development of these community relationships that NYC Mesh has expanded, strengthened, and made that much more resilient. This endeavor would not be possible without you. We welcome people with diverse skill sets and from all backgrounds to assist, contribute, and lead initiatives. To learn more about how you can volunteer, visit and gives the links, or come to our organizational meetup. And all this stuff is things that were already there. It's like grabbed from the website, some stuff from Willem's blog post. And then this bottom section provides all the information that's needed for them to configure their network and share their network as well, and to request help. And we have a version, some people love QR tags, some people hate them, but we can create QR barcodes so that instead of having to type stuff in, it makes it easier. Someone can just scan it with their phone, and the link will serve it up right on their phones. But that, again, should not be the last point of contact. Thank you emails help establish a relationship with the
Test.
Oh, thanks. Oh, that's way better. Sorry, guys. A friendly communication with an appeal to the new member will reinforce our mission and promote our social media efforts and newsletter. This area can be used for personalized imagery to promote past newsletter stories and/or recent media coverage. This space can be further personalized with digitized handwriting by the install squad to thank a member for joining the Mesh and supporting our efforts. Links to New York City Mesh accounts, social media accounts, invite the member to follow. Members who follow are more likely to contribute to our efforts. At the very least, a follow serves to extend our social media outreach. Just as every new antenna grows the network, every new member grows our community, ensuring that New York City Mesh is a resilient, connected community. Thank you.
That was fantastic. Thank you so much for putting that together. My question is how we begin, and whether there's a way we can begin trialing this.
That's why I wanted to try and get this out today, because of the install-a-thon. Getting a list. I have lists of top 10, top 50, top 100 hashtags, banned hashtags. We have imagery that we can use. I spoke with Darby about working on video and editing video. I actually shot a couple of photos just around the neighborhood in Parkside to try and get a jump on trying to promote our install there. I asked to join the Parkside Avenue group. So what we can do is create our background. We have our lists of hashtags. We'll get other imagery that we need for the area. I'm sure we have equipment, photos, or anything that we can use, and we'll just put together some copy for some quick posts. Just say a quick hello on the group Facebook page, and that will at least get us started. And we can manage the information and record statistics as we see the number of views and everything like that as the accounts generate interest.
I think that's great. It would also be good to trial it on a brand new join request as well, maybe. So
Yeah.
we can
Well,
talk a bit more offline
sure.
later about how to
Yeah,
get you
and
connected
that's
to all
that's
the
my thing is
platform
like how
stuff, too.
long is a typical install, like from the moment that we get the email to the moment the antenna goes out to be put on.
Yeah.
So
We can scrape that data
yeah,
also. So
exactly.
but,
So that's we need that. We have all the other information. We can do it.
Have you tried Nextdoor as an avenue of reaching people?
I have not.
Nextdoor, it's like a thing, it's like a local social network thing.
Yeah, you have to verify yourself that you actually live in the area, I believe. Question in the back.
I just wanted to get a room read on proposing a hashtag of axe your coax once you've joined the mesh. Okay, that's a no. All right.
How you doing?
All right, how are you?
Well, huge fan of the project, and I like that line you had in there. It was like the stranglehold that Optimum and some of these other ISPs have it's awful. I had kind of a two-part question. The first being, have you ever dealt with, for instance, like a building manager, owner, whom I guess wasn't really supportive of the project, or perhaps was supportive of the project for not the right reasons? And being a security guy, the one thing I would never want to see is if, like, for instance, we do this install, right? We give essentially a building free internet, and then the owner of that building goes and tries to exploit that, or maybe tries to leverage that, to the disadvantage of their tenants. Do we have any kind of checks to prevent that from happening?
I think I may be too new for that because I've actually only been here a short time. But I'd say one of the, maybe Brian, do you know what you would do for something like that? Or?
It seems like unlikely, I guess, but just first thing comes to my mind just because I work
Because
in
I'm a New
security,
Yorker?
so it's like,
The only pushback you get is they don't want us drilling in their buildings.
is there any sort of is there any mechanism in place for, like, say some bad actor were to do that, is there anything that the community can do to, like, immediately nip it in the bud and say, like, it should just, I guess what I'm getting at is no building owner or landlord should be profiting from this, right? It should just always be a free.
Yeah, we have the network commons license, which everyone's supposed to agree to, and so that prevents that kind of thing. But we haven't had any bad actors, really.
Any other questions? Oh, hi. Oh. Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, I'm trying not to yell because I tend to project, but
Got it.
I'm new. This is my first meeting, and my question is ideally around the membership and whether an organization, a community-based organization, qualifies as a member, or are all members individuals. So if there was a group with a potential campaign, could we sort of share the responsibility of that fundraising and design our campaign according to the community and organizational needs?
So you're saying as a community that's going to fundraise for the community, or to raise money to set up antennas?
Well, that's what I'm trying to get a grasp of, is what the structure is. So if the community-based organization is leading the initiative or the campaign, whether the organization can qualify as a member in order to partner with NYC Mesh for an install or to support a network that's is under construction.
So, all right. So what you're saying is you just so the organization would like to, as long as the organization has line of sight, we should be able to install it, right?
Sorry? Partner. Okay. So there's a partnership arrangement as well.
Oh.
Okay, cool. That's what I'm interested in. So I'll just put it out there that I'm whoever is in charge of the partnership and design for that aspect of work. I would love to speak and connect with someone on that.
You should maybe come and sit in on our install-a-thon meeting.
Okay.
Because
because we'll be talking about one model of partnership that we've done with Block Association.
Perfect. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much.
So we're just going to give a quick plug because we're going to try to do a breakout group after this just about our upcoming install-a-thon that's on October 19th. Just as quick background, we got a $2,000 grant from the Internet Society to be able to do basically anything that we wanted, and we used it to be able to invest in a partnership with the Parkside Block Association, which is just south of Prospect Park, if you're kind of wondering where Parkside is. This is very zoomed in. And so Willem and I have been working, and others have been working to try to kind of foster and grow that partnership. We had a very, very involved Block Association leader. This is Kurt here, who's done an incredible amount of outreach work to the community on that block. We actually now have a total of 21 units in 12 or 13 buildings or something signed up to be able to participate in the Block Association, in the install-a-thon. So we're pretty thrilled about that. Last Friday night, myself and Pete and a couple others presented to a Block Association meeting. Willem presented to a Block Association meeting before that, so we've been really trying to work and cultivate this relationship for some time. Now we are in go time. It's on October 19th. You've probably seen emails, maybe an email about it. It is an all hands on deck kind of volunteer effort to see how many installs we can do in one day. We'll set hopefully an NYC Mesh record. And the goal being at the end of the day that we're going to have an entire new block on NYC Mesh and participating in our community. And that will hopefully be able to be a lasting kind of partnership that we can have with the area. So we did some speed tests a couple weekends ago, and we're able to get pretty good speeds. We're going to have 2 hubs on the block. And again, this kind of just gives a view. This is the block kind of heading down that way. So we were able to get one hub here, and we're going to have another there that's going to connect to our Prospect Heights hub. And then essentially we're going to be connecting Omnis down these blocks, down the block all the way in there, connecting house to house and having running cable across people's rooftops and connecting multiple buildings. So it should be a really fun day. It is going to be a huge kind of organizational undertaking that we're working on, and we really invite everybody to participate in not only the day of, but doing some planning in advance, and we really hope that you join us at the breakout group. Anything to add, Mom?
Maybe one small thing, which is just a sort of personal motivation for doing this. We've been kind of piloting this on a much more drawn-out scale on a block on Jefferson Avenue in Brooklyn, and we're seeing more and more people involved in block associations seeing the social media we're putting out, seeing the map, and getting interested in getting their neighbors and their communities connected in this way. And I think still the majority of the installs we do are single individuals, but thanks to our updated technological policy where we're installing omnidirectional routers that can all connect to each other, and thanks to this growth and interest from block association leaders, I think we're really fulfilling the mission of Mesh, both on a technological level in providing that resilience through multiple connections, and also helping to build more of a community network, not just a network of individuals who all plug in. So it's very exciting to me, and I look forward, I'm sure if we're able to publicize this the right way, to more install-a-thons and more block-wide installs in the future.
Great.
That's it.
Thanks so much. Any questions? If you have questions, I guess you can just come to the working group afterwards, and as opposed to using time here.
We do want to emphasize that this is a working group, so we have a strict
agenda.
If you're not yet involved, feel free to come and observe and listen. Our plan is kind of pretty much set at this point, so we do welcome your contribution, but just be aware that it is a kind of
logistics
nose down getting
so much logistics.
But especially for anyone who's interested in doing something like this or organizing or partnering with us, please come and participate because to sort of further answer your question, we're experimenting right now with different models of partnerships. There's no rule, there's no formal arrangement, so this is a work in progress, and we want to try different ways of doing it. So,
Great, thanks.
I'll just say further about this that, the Installathon is part of the, NYC Mesh is nominally a project of the Internet Society's New York chapter, and the Installathon is part of a chaptathon. And a chaptathon is a friendly competition amongst all the Internet Society's chapters around the world. And every year it has a theme, and this year the theme is connecting the unconnected. So, I think we're going right down the middle of the fairway with that, and we've got a good chance. But I will say that I recommend Googling Chaptathon, and you'll see all these other projects that are going on around the world, which are working on the same idea as we are, all over the world. So it's great to be a part of that. And now, just excuse me a minute while I set up my computer. Okay. So this is basically the story of Tom Lowenhaupt, who you see here, who recently passed away. And it's also the story of the New York City top-level domain, which Tom championed from way back. And so, first to talk about Tom was that he was one of the first students at ITP. You know what ITP is? NYU? So back in the 90s. And so he was obviously an early adopter of the internet. And he's from Jackson Heights in Queens. And so he took an interest in this matter of because he was on his local community board, and he took how could the internet benefit his local community? And then he got interested in internet governance, as it was not known even then, and as ICANN was formed in '98, and then in the NYC top-level domain. So I made a kind of timeline here. So the first .nyc domain was by a guy called Paul Garin, who you might know because he's from NYC and Wi-Fi NYC. Who is a predecessor of NYC Mesh. And he actually made an alternate route in -- with 50 different top-level domains and a different route and everything. And then what happened at the same time as John Postel, who ran the whole internet domain system out of his garage, kicked the bucket. And so they formed ICANN. The Clinton administration formed ICANN as an independent international body to run domain names. And in year 2000, they opened it up for people to apply for domain names. Garin and this other company applied for .nyc and got turned down. And in 2001, Queens, I put QB3, I'm wrong there, I know. Queens Community Board 3 passed a resolution calling for the city to acquire .nyc for the benefit of the local community. Garin, meanwhile, sued ICANN for the fact that they, for not letting him have the thing. And basically he won the case, but they said because it's the government, you lost. So then nothing happened much for some years that I know about. But Tom joined the Internet Society local chapter, which is where I met him around 2005. And he was always talking about this. So in 2008, I said, well, let's have a public forum about this. And in May, we made a public forum at the library in Washington Square. And this led to Gail Brewer introducing a bill for the city to acquire, to do it, and the way that Gail likes to do things. At the same time, they announced that they were going to do a new GTLD round, and Gail had a public hearing, and all these people came and spoke. Garin came and told his tale of woe. Name at Work came up with their business proposition. Tom got up and spoke about community benefits. And in February 2009, we had a new council, a new speaker, Christine Quinn, who, and let's see if I can play a video. Let's just see if it works. What happens? Not found. Let me try this one. That's a shame. Oh, I had this. Somehow I pulled this, which is, which it's a pity that I can't play that. I'll post the link in the Slack. And this is Mayor Ed Koch saying this is the best real estate deal that he's ever seen in the city for is this ability to grab, grab a piece of domain space in New York. And going back to here, April 2009, Do It issued an RFI, and Tom responded to the request for information. Tom responded saying they should reserve names for all the communities.
Neighborhood names.
Neighborhood names.
Neighborhood names, yeah.
And then in October 2009, they issued an RFP, which included the thing of Nexus. Nexus means that anybody who could have a domain had to be in New York City. You couldn't just, you had to have an address in New York City. And they reserved a bunch of names. And then in May 2010, we had an event at NYU where, and I don't know if this video is going to play, well, I'm not going to play this video, but this is de Blasio. I played this video of de Blasio from the 2008 meeting, blathering on about how the city should control the domain. And, because, he didn't want big companies profiting off the city and this and that and so on. And he had I'll post a link to that in the Slack too.
Well, in the same year, if I might add, that Tom got a group of people
I might say that we do have Mrs. Lowenhaupt in the house.
Hi. My name is Pat. And at the same year in 2010, he got a group of people together at the neighborhood, the Preservation Center, to talk about how the neighborhoods should be represented in this particular area of what you would call real estate on the internet. So, because basically he was very concerned about grassroots and neighborhoods being able to communicate. That was his primary motivation all the time.
So we had that meeting, and then in June 2011 they actually announced the second round with a deadline of 2012, and to get a domain you had to pay to get in the game you had to put up $185,000. In March 2012, Paul Garin filed a trademark claim, which as far as I know went nowhere. And then also that in March 2012, there was a contract hearing. And for this contract here, and this was because the deadline was April 2012, so they literally left it to the last minute. And it was because Rachel Stern, now Rachel Hout, who was the chief digital officer of the city, had at least got on the case and sort of pushed them through. And when they did this, this is apparently kind of normal procedure for how these things run. But the contract, in order to see this contract, you had to go to a building downtown where they would let you in. The thing was this big. They say you've got 15 minutes to read this, and you say, well, can I get a copy of it? No. Can I take a picture of a page with my phone? No. And then go to the thing. And there was a video of Tom ranting about how is this a way to do business in consultation with the community in terms of getting a top-level domain. And that's the URL of, I think I've got that one working at least. And this is Gail Brewer at that hearing. Let's see if it plays. Sorry, it's not, somehow the audio's not coming through. Anyway, what she's essentially, why I pulled that out is because she points, there you can see Tom sitting behind her on the left. There's Rachel who's the Chief Digital Officer, and she's basically saying the whole thing wouldn't have happened without Tom pushing it, and repeating basically saying that she supports his points. And I will say all this stuff, I've been videoing stuff a long time. All this stuff is videoed and available if you have nothing better to do with your life. And they filed the application. Garin did a last-ditch protest, and then in 2013, the New York City Advisory Board was formed.
Do you remember that Esther Dyson was on this board?
Esther Dyson was on it, yeah. And I think Josh Breitbart, was he on it or not?
I didn't see his name.
But anyway, if you try and find a trace of this board online, you will not find a trace of it.
No.
The only place you'll find it is on the Wikipedia, because I put it in there, and even the link that I put to the city website that announced it is gone and it's not archived.
It was such a good idea.
And I tried at one time to go and video their meetings, and they flatly refused me to go and video their meetings. I said, but this is a public, no. So March 2014, anyway, NYC was delegated to New Star. They had this nice guy put in charge of it, actually, called Ken Hansen, and everything looked good for a bit. And then, although later Ken Hansen left to do better things, and .NYC has been kind of like an orphan child ever since. From 2010 on, Tom hosted a series of meetings next to St. Mark's Church to try and to sort of consult with people to try and figure out what people felt was the good way to use, and we're talking here second level domains. So, like JacksonHeights.nyc,
yes.
These kind of domains for the benefit of the citizens.
So he was thinking of pizza.JacksonHeights.nyc. How could the neighborhoods use all these second
yeah,
names?
his original idea was well, how do people know what's local to their area that's a good thing, and so I always was a bit cynical about this, because I say, the big companies with their algorithms are going to beat your pants off. You can't be a index on this. But he had meanwhile encountered Wikimedia NYC, and they came to some of the meetings, and the idea was formed to make the NYC Wiki. And I felt this was a good idea because, there's a lot of stuff that won't make it onto Wikipedia because everything has to be notable. And so I said, if you could get school kids researching their area and making Wikipedia pages and doing this kind of thing, it would be good. So we made the NYC Wiki, and
it's 2 years old now.
No, this was.
I mean, as of today, as of
next month. You're going ahead,
Yeah.
jumping ahead here.
Yeah.
It's because this is 2010, and so we made the NYC Wiki so we made the NYC Wiki, and basically it failed. We ported a bunch of neighborhood info over from Wikipedia, but nothing really went of it, and nobody really knew what to do with it. It never took off, and then the guys from Wikimedia NYC who were maintaining it kind of didn't do it. The guy who had the domain didn't maintain it. I actually host it on NYC ISOC NY, but it died. It didn't work.
No, it was too generic.
Yeah, I mean, it never found a purpose. In 2015, the city launched a thing called neighborhoods.nyc, and the idea of this was that they've partnered with this company called Visualize or something like this, and that they'd make a bunch of modules, and that you could people in neighborhoods could get the rights to the second level domain, set up a site. They'd have all these off-the-shelf modules that they could put on the site, and make some kind of site. And this is what happened 2 years ago. And Tom successfully bid for Jackson Heights, NYC, and which he eventually set up as a wiki and is still going. But this has completely disappeared. The public-private partnership, which was trumpeted, came to a close. The people didn't maintain it anymore. At the time, Beta NYC and I complained bitterly that, while this made use of open data, there was no way for other people to produce, modules or apps that then could be farmed out to these people. And Patty, do you know of any others besides Jackson Heights that are?
I believe that in one of the neighborhood preservation group meetings, that there were maybe just four neighborhoods that had some sort of site that was visible. But
I have a video of the meeting when the city did the meeting in Queens to announce, to sort of announce the thing. And you could tell this woman that was running it for the city hated the project with a passion. She'd been roped in. Do you remember? I don't know if you remember that, but it was it's quite funny. So that I think is as far as I go. So one more thing, of course, is that now Tom made an organization to handle all these things, which is called connecting.nyc.
which is very relevant to mesh philosophy.
Yeah.
It's connecting.
So with Tom gone, I don't know who else was on the board of this.
Well, basically, the people who were on the board just to support Tom because he was the one who was the impetus for it all. Yeah.
And Tom's been in not so good health, and so when you look at the story of the sort of the whole community aspect of the top level domain going down the hill, this is because the whole thing was single-handedly driven by Tom from the word go. And so he did this thing connecting.nyc. Now this is a 501c3, which is there off the peg. I don't know if anybody's looking for a 501c3 called connecting.nyc.
It's very appropriate for this group.
What it also has, which is quite interesting, is it has observer status at the United Nations.
Yes, and somebody is continuing that.
So you can, if you have this through this organization, you go to the United Nations and campaign on community networks globally. And so, there was a thing, Tom's died, what can we do for a memorial for him? And so the best thing we could do as a memorial for Tom is to keep his work up. And what I believe is that we could get a few good people from NYC Mesh and a couple of people from Wikimedia. I'll go and make the same pitch to Wikimedia NYC, that we could perhaps kick the ball around and figure out, and make a new board for this thing, work with Patty to make a new board for this, and then see how it could work and how it can work. And, I myself don't know how it can fit in. Obviously, if they're going to have servers, you could be hosting the servers and this kind of thing, of how having a second level domain can fit into meshing in neighborhoods. You know what I mean? But it could.
I think it really could.
And the city, I think, would be happy to see something good come from it, and could even possibly, it could be an avenue to pull support from the city. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start a Slack channel, which is going to be called names, okay, #names, and on the Slack, and invite people to come in there, and then we can kind of work further on this. And I guess that's basically my pitch. Patty?
Well, just basically, the idea was always about neighborhoods. It was always about grassroots. It was never about incorporation. It was never about New York City getting a top-level domain name. It was all about how people who live in neighborhoods can communicate with each other and work together when everybody's sitting in their little living rooms and watching TV, but want to connect to people who have similar interests and desires to have their neighborhoods work. So Tom basically drove the city to put away the neighborhood names, all of them, all 359, I think there were, put them away and don't let the city sell them. Not Harlem.NYC.
Okay, here's a
not
list.
Corona.NYC.
Here's a list
none
of
them.
all the reserved names.
So the idea was that who should get these names? Who would be the ones to develop these names? A 501c3 was decided by the developers should be representative of a neighborhood, different people of different types of interests, health, arts, education, all these different people getting together, forming a 501c3 for their neighborhood name and developing it. It's very difficult for people to do that. Very, very difficult. The last meeting that Tom had was last November. He was in a wheelchair. He spoke very laboriously because he was so motivated for an hour and a half, used up all of his energy to try and get the people who had come to the meeting, and there were, in Jackson Heights, where there are 175,000 people living in the neighborhood, he got 13 to show up. And listen to him and try and run with it, because he was, you know, just losing all of his energy. He had ALS. And as of 2 months ago, he passed away. So in his attempt to try and run with the neighborhood, he had been working for the past 2 years of his life, putting on all the information. If you go to Jackson Heights, the wiki, jacksonheights.nyc, and see all of the information. He used interns from the city. He used every single possible avenue that he could to promote information about the neighborhood, because he wanted it to show what every other neighborhood could do. He was just so such a believer in the idea. So whatever you see on that site, it is there as a another motivation for other neighborhoods to do similar or do something different or do something better, and find a way so that all neighborhoods could have something on the internet so other neighborhoods could see what they're doing. Can you imagine having mesh on every single one of the neighborhoods in New York City? Wouldn't that be fantastic? That would be like super. So that's what he was looking for. And you know, like the internet, it takes time. The internet took 30 years to develop so that people understood what the internet was. Well, neighborhood names is taking a while, but it is grassroots, and it is the thing that will be transparent and open in a form of a wiki. Anybody who registers and also I guess we're still working on the policy, but like the public libraries, you have to give them your information. They will send you a card in the mail, and then you go back to the library and you're verifying that you are a person who lives in that neighborhood. We're trying to work out with code and with some kind of queue with the registration of the Jackson Heights Wiki to provide that same kind of idea that people who register and want to make a page on this wiki are the people who do live in the neighborhood, and it's not some kind of machine or, you know, internet thing that would take it over. And having dialogues and creating a page of an issue that's going on, or creating some sort of place that is a hub, a community center, a neighborhood center, was Tom's idea. And connecting was the idea that all of the neighborhoods would do it, every single one of them, and it would be a phenomenon.
So I know people are keen to get to their workshops. So
Yes. Thank you so very much for doing this, Jolie. I could talk all day about it, and
yes.
Unfortunately, I'm not Tom, and he was the brain, and I was just his support system.
A very good one you were too.
Yeah.
And still are.
And would love to talk to anybody about it who is interested in knowing a little bit more.
Okay.
And
So
thank you all for listening.
I'll just say that the third, so if you can imagine meshjacksonheights.nyc as being, what you could do with this kind of stuff, there's definitely potential there. Yeah. So thank you everybody for listening.
Thanks. That was really cool. I mean, definitely the neighborhood idea is something we've really tried to jump into over the last year, really bringing like a hyper-local sense of what the internet is. So it's really cool to see other platforms that can support that as well. Because also bringing together neighborhoods is quite difficult. It's the process. So I'm just going to give it just talk about just like 2 minutes about some upcoming events. We do have a lot going on this month, and just want to make sure everyone knows, and then we're going to break out into our working groups. So if you're brand new and you're really just interested in learning what Mesh is, we're going to meet in the FAR conference room, which is School 100, and we'll give an introduction on what our network is, how to get involved, any questions you might have, and then over in School, the conference room right over here, they're going to talk about the Installathon led by Scott and Willem, and that's mostly a working group because there are a lot of things that need to be done. So if you want to really jump into volunteering, that's awesome. And so we have a lot of stuff coming up. Okay, cool. So next Thursday, we're going to have a Bushwick neighborhood meeting at Mil Mundo's bookstore, and this is specifically going to be presented in Spanish and to the Spanish-speaking community in Bushwick. So that's really exciting, and that's kind of a really breaking into the Bushwick neighborhood and trying to build a community there. And then Friday, the weekend of the 18th to the 20th, is the Radical Networks Conference, which if you're interested in learning about other alternative uses to tech, I highly recommend you go to it. There's going to be a lot of... What? Oh, and Jolly's going to stream it. That's cool, too, yeah. So just a lot of different presentations going on there, and that's in, like, the Hell's Kitchen area, generally. And then on Saturdays, our Installathon in Bed-Stuy, and so you can hear more about that. And we also have... What? Oh, it's in Prospect Lefferts Gardens? Okay. I've been a little... Sorry, I was also writing this as I was walking. And then on Thursday, the 24th, we're going to have a GitHub Docs workshop. So if you want to learn about GitHub if you don't know anything about it, or if you want to make some edits to our website or streamline things, you can attend this, and it'll be hosted by Oliver. So yeah, and these are all on Meetup too, and we'll announce them on our meetings channel. So, okay, now, and so you guys new people at 100, if you want that, Installathon at school, and then if you want to just mingle and chat with people, feel free to stay here, grab drinks, we might have a bit of pizza, so, thanks.